Have you noticed that Man United have recently been finding it pretty hard to sell their players? Especially biggest players who are expected to generate the money. Anytime they are trying to move a player on, more often than not, it ends up being a loan deal or a free transfer. This season alone, Rashford, Antony and Sancho have gone out on loan. Previous years, Cristiano Ronaldo, Paul Pogba, Lingard, De Gea, Martial and the likes, all leave for free. This is not a coincidence. It's a pattern. United should be making a lot of money from players like these, but that has not been the case. Why? We'll be answering that question in this video today. These are 4 reasons top clubs don't want to buy Man United players. Wait, subscribe to this channel for more exciting and entertaining soccer stories. Remember to hit the notification bell to get notified once we post new videos.
Let's face it, first of all, one of the huge reasons for most clubs, and we saw it this January as well, is high wages. Man United is one of the most generous clubs when it comes to paying their players. That makes it super difficult for them to move them on. Other clubs don't want to or simply can't afford the wages of these players, so they can't buy them. This was one of the reasons Rashford couldn't find a club until late in the window. And even when he finally did, Aston Villa still could not cover his full salary and needed help from Man United. The same thing happened with Sancho. The clubs who wanted to sign him could not afford his wages, so it became very complicated. In these cases, these clubs end up not buying. Instead, they try getting the player on loan and tell United to take care of a certain percentage of the player's wage. And more often than not, United agree to do that because they are desperate. You see, in the end, football is business, and everyone is trying to get the very best deal. Man United have proven to be a pretty bad selling club in recent years. They only try to sell players when it is obvious they are very desperate to see them go. Once clubs smell that desperation, they know they can get the player without paying too much, or sometimes anything at all. Look at Rashford, Alexis Sanchez, and Sancho, for example. Before they left, it was obvious that they were never going to play for United again, so the clubs that wanted them knew they didn't have to pay a dime. United had shown that they didn't want those players and were most desperate to get them off their books, so these clubs would even look at it as them doing United a favor by taking the players off their hands.
Secondly, Man United is a dysfunctional club in serious need of rehabilitation, but then when it comes down to the players, it's always a question of, is United scouting horrible, or does this dysfunctional club just kills talents? Trying to find out what the case is a bit of a risk. That risk involved is a certain reason other clubs stay away completely while others try to mitigate the risk by spending little to no money in the transfer. For example, look at Sancho. He was great at Dortmund, but when he moved to United, things did not work out at all. Then he moved back to Dortmund on loan. He was good again and he is doing well at Chelsea now. In this case you could say the problem was not the scouting. Sancho was a top talent, no doubt, but apparently, the state of the club hindered him from actually playing at his very top level. But the next question becomes, how badly has he been affected by the dysfunction at the club? Is the damage irreparable, or is this someone who can fix? This element of risk is what clubs usually want to approach with a loan deal or get them on a free transfer. That way, they don't lose much if it doesn't work out. And this leads us to our next point.
Thirdly, some clubs and coaches are aware of the quality of the players, but they just don't want to have to do a reorientation of these players. You see, when you have a player who's been in a bad system for a long time, as a coach you have to do some work to get the player up to speed with how things work in a better environment. Take Kai Havertz for example. He has adapted well now, but you remember how things were at the beginning of his move to Arsenal. Arteta brought him in from a dysfunctional Chelsea and he had to be patient and persistent with him before he started to become good. He didn't score a goal from open play in his first 4 months at Arsenal. Not every coach has the patience, so they just avoid buying players from such dysfunctional clubs like Man United.
Finally, the media and Man United legends can be very toxic, you know. More often than not, they make these players out to be villains, so even if coaches believe in them and want them, it's usually hard for them to convince their owners or boards to bring out money for such players who have repeatedly been condemned in the media. There is the fear that such a player could come in and have a negative impact on the dressing room as well as the club's image, so owners would usually not be so enthusiastic about an outright purchase. This usually leaves the coaches with no option but testing the waters by getting the player on loan, maybe with an option or obligation to buy after certain conditions are met. Just like Chelsea did with Sancho and Aston Villa have now done with Rashford. But for you, what do you think is the biggest reason why top clubs tend to avoid spending money on Man United players? Is it because of the wages? The damage the media has done on their image? Or the fear that the player has been ruined by United? Or do you have any other angle of thought that we haven't even thought of at all? Feel free to share with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Also turn on the bell notifications so you never miss out on amazing content like this. See you in the next stories. Bye.